Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Tableau user group, our January 2021 kickoff meeting. My name is Alex Derovanessian. I'm with Qlarion, and I'm very excited to be here today with you all. I've been part of Tableau user group meetings for many years. It's been great to watch this group of individuals, whether you're new or you've been here for years, come together on a regular cadence and share in a community perspective and learn more about Tableau and grow as a Tableau community. So first of all, I'd like to say welcome. And thank you for your time as well. We recognize fully that your time is very important, and we want to make sure we're making the most of your time throughout these presentations. So we're going to go through a couple presentations this morning. We'll also then follow that up with some interactive polling, some Q&A. We also want to make the presentations interactive. So if you have questions, there'll be time at the end of those presentations for Q&A as well. So please feel free to engage in this new virtual world that we're in. We want to make sure that we're making this as best possible for you and as engaging as possible for you as well. Without further ado, I do want to also mention this is being recorded for Tableau. So your presence is your permission from a recording perspective. I just want to make sure everyone is fully aware of that as well. Check chat. All right. So very quickly, again, welcome to the Tableau session. This is going to go from around 11. I don't think we'll go till fully 12:30, but I do want to make sure that we use y'all's time wisely, and so we will get started with the presentation. So very quickly, just a quick introduction of Qlarion. We actually are purely focused in the public sector. We provide data and analytics solutions for federal, state, and local governments. We pride ourselves on citizen impact. So if it impacts citizens, if it impacts stakeholders, that is where we love to work with our clients. We have strong partnerships with all major vendors. So again, we are a bit agnostic or a bit open in terms of the vendors we work with. And we also drive innovations for our customers. So, and then finally, not knowing anything about where anyone is today, but we are always hiring. We've enjoyed 7 years on the Great Place to Work for Virginia. A very big honor for us to be 7 years in a row for that. We don't take that lightly and are excited that our team is as excited as we are to be working here. And then finally, we're driving innovation in the Commonwealth. So if you are with a Virginia agency or a secretariat, chances are we've crossed paths at some point with you all. And that's where we love the interaction and the engagement, is driving the Commonwealth and beyond that as we go around the country as well. A few awards, again, this is not a sales pitch, this is just more of information. We did get the NASU award for some of our work in the fact and opioid space with our partner agencies around the Commonwealth. The Excellence in Government Award, I've mentioned the Best Places to Work and our state scoop of finalist awards as well. But really the award for us is actually working with amazing clients and really driving change and transforming clients in their use of data. So that's enough about us. Again, my name is Alex D, for those who've joined late. But again, our goal over the next hour and a half is to share some ideas with you all around Tableau. I'll be introducing Spencer Ferguson here in a second, who will take us through our first presentation. But again, if you all have any questions, feel free to use the chat. We'll also have some Q&A time at the end of each of these presentations, and then we'll also go into a polling Q&A after the presentations to get more feedback from you all about what we can do either individually or collectively to make TUG the most valuable for you all and bring you the best content possible in our future TUG presentations as well. So without further ado, let me introduce Spencer Ferguson. He can do a quick introduction as well and walk us through our first presentation. Thanks, Spencer.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Alex. Before I go off and running, can you hear me all right, by the way? Can everyone hear me okay? All right, I'm getting a thumbs up. So Alex, thank you so much for the great introduction. I definitely echo those sentiments. I'm so excited to just get some momentum going for the Tableau group starting early in 2021. So I really cannot wait to see what's to come with this group this year. And I'm interested in feedback as well in terms of what is going to make the most impact in attending these sessions in your career with this software. So as Alex mentioned, I'm going to be speaking today on a topic called data densification meets design. So we'll go over what that means, go over some examples, and share hopefully a fun example of a visual along the way. Before I do that, though, just an introduction on me. I work for Qlarion as well. Work closely with Alex D. He actually introduced me and provided kind of a keynote on the last Tableau user group presentation that I did, which is probably now 2 or 3 years ago. So we're in kind of a good tradition or pattern at this point, I would say, and I don't see why we wouldn't keep that going. So again, Alex, thank you for your help in moderating today, and I'm just super excited to engage with the audience. So for the folks that I haven't met, looking forward to meeting you, hopefully in person before too long and working with you. And for everyone else that may be on the line, haven't seen the participant list, but thank you so much for joining. So without further ado, though, on this topic, getting started with my presentation, I'd like to just provide, kind of an introduction to the topic and talk about the purpose for bringing this topic up with the group. I'd like to go over some demonstrations of both this notion of data densification, what that means in Tableau, and the sigmoid curve, which is really one type of curve that's an option that I want to present as an option in your toolkit as you make visuals. And if you've already seen these things, I'm interested in your thoughts as well. Maybe you've been familiar with these topics or used them in your previous work. So more than interested to hear about how you use these subjects as well. So I've put together a dashboard that I hope to be just a fun example of using these aforementioned topics. So we can walk through that as well, and I'm happy to share that out and post that on Tableau Public if there's interest and you'd like to kind of comb through how that comes together. And then at the end of my presentation, I'd like to make sure if there are any questions, hopefully I can assist, and if not, I've provided my contact info so we can follow up later in the interest of time. But I'm happy to discuss anything as possible. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and jump into some definitions so that we can kind of level set for the presentation. I want to also just point out the image here at right is just kind of a precursor to what the dashboard is actually about. I'm just, as many are, really eager to get back into Richmond's awesome, thriving restaurant scene. So I went ahead and made the dashboard about that topic, although I believe these concepts can be applicable to, a lot of different types of work, of course, not just for the topic that the dashboard is around. Just wanted to incorporate a fun topic for today's presentation. So with that said, just jumping into a purpose and some definitions so that we can have that, moving forward throughout the presentation. So I'd like to demonstrate something that a lot of folks on the call I'm sure are familiar with, but one main thing that I like about Tableau is that there's an opportunity for us to use, different calculations, functions, and, maybe even sometimes workarounds to create non-out of the box visuals. So, you could probably name a bunch of them, but for example, a Sankey diagram or other things where you can't click in, the show me panel and have something pop up. And oftentimes, as we know, that may not always change, our visual into something that we want anyway, and requires, further tweaking. But because of the opportunity that Tableau affords us, we can create things that, help tell the story better. And, I think it's a great privilege, I think, that Tableau provides to us. Not every visualization or BI tool does that. So it can be used to our advantage, as long as we know what Tableau is doing in the background and can work around that as well. So the other goal is just to introduce these technical concepts so that we can, of course, enhance our designs for our clients. And so I'd say the two main things from a technical perspective to cover today are data densification, first of all, which is something that's been studied and written about many times over with Tableau. But overall, it just describes Tableau, this ability for Tableau to pad or build out incomplete or missing values. So it's commonly thought of as domain padding or domain completion. Some ways that Tableau accomplishes this. There are a lot of foundational videos out there, blog posts, and things like that. And some of them can be found in the references portion of this. So you're welcome to chase some of those down as well as I post that. But I think that over the past decade or so, some folks have covered it in a lot more depth than I will have time for in this presentation. But generally speaking, this is talking about Tableau filling in missing data from the base data set. So the sigmoid function, since that'll be mentioned a couple times, and that's something that I used in the dashboard, this is one option for a function that generates a curve. It's a commonly used example. I think that it will illustrate our purpose well today. Another one would be a sine function. And one benefit of the sine function would be, it maintains a more consistent curve throughout a Sankey diagram. But again, that's further reading. I think for this presentation, I've highlighted a sigmoid function, and I'll go into a brief example of that. So just some background of things that we will touch on here in a moment. So I'm going to go back out of presentation mode for a second here and just show, speaking on the restaurant topic here, in my base data set, I have the top 10 restaurants according to the most number of Yelp reviews that are in Richmond. So if you go to Yelp and go to most reviewed and go to dinner, I believe, as a selection criteria, then you get these 10 as the top 10. And they're not necessarily in order right here. Of course, not to divert too much, but if you go to highest reviews or 5-star, it could give you a pretty random list depending on some restaurants may have less reviews, but they're all 5 stars. So I consider this to be a good starting place, but it's totally up for debate. Maybe hit us in the chat if you have a favorite that stands out, as I know I do. But this is just the top 10 in the neighborhood that they're in. Obviously, with these two dimensional values, we're not going to have in our base data set a match for each of them because each restaurant is in one neighborhood. However, to illustrate this notion of data densification, if we were to take a simple calculated field such as index, which is just this index open and close parentheses here, and just drop it into the view, then we can see that rather than our 10 marks that were in just with each restaurant in neighborhood combination, there are now 80 marks in the view, as if that each of these records had values in the base data set. From here, we could actually change the compute using, we could change the nature of the table calculation and start evaluating this in different ways, despite the fact that this data doesn't exist in the base data set. And we may or may not be able to continue to perform calculations on this. It might take some tweaking along the way as we build out a visualization from here. But I just wanted to illustrate that at a very simple level, Tableau has this innate capability of padding or trying to complete, showing missing marks on a visual, despite the fact that the data doesn't exist in the base source. And there are a lot of different ways that we can, pad out the data starting from the base source or try and, engineer Tableau into doing so. I know probably many folks on the call have run into a situation where, you're trying to get all dimensions to show, and you want to show one and show a sum of 0 or something, for example, and wondering why it's not there and it doesn't exist in the base data source. And I'm sure this resonates with someone, but we've probably even gone so far as to, create, all of that data in just a static table and then left join your entire data set to it. So I know that there are a lot of workarounds that sometimes this takes, but oftentimes we can, fill in missing values. So that again is a quick quick demonstration of data densification. So moving on to the curve. In the base data set here for this visual, if I go over to Excel real quick, there is simply a point A and point B and an X and Y. So we'll get a coordinate. The first one is 0, 0, and B is located at 1, 1. So if we were to plot this extremely simple data set, we would get a line, right, between 0 and 1. If we wanted to create a curve, there are a number of steps that are taken to get Tableau to create this shape. And so if I go to Sigmoid Y here, this is essentially the function that helps us to build out that curve. And without going into too much mathematical detail, it's 1 over 1 plus the e to the negative x. So that calculation in combination with densifying the data set and speaking about how many points that we want in it is going to allow us to build out this S-shaped curve. And it's really not a completely smooth curve. It's actually an approximation. It's a number of lines based on how many points we tell it to place in this visual. So by using that equation and then padding out our data, we can actually use it to create a curve. So that's just a quick example. And right now, it's plotted by saying, we're going to use the x coordinates and the y coordinates here and use a line as the visual type that's being connected there. And I went ahead and duplicated the rows here so that we could place a point on each of these so that we could better visualize how this all comes together. So what I wanted to share though today is using this sigmoid curve. And I wanted to find a way to plot them on a map so that we could show where these restaurants are and show the number of reviews for each of them. So if I go over here to the visual, this is coming together from the concepts that we just went over. So as you can see, there's a bar chart, a simple bar chart that shows the top 10 based on their number of reviews. And then each of the bars is connected using one of those curves to their geographic coordinates. So if we click on the bar, it'll go and highlight the location on the map of Richmond by the fork and knife coordinate marker there. So, and it shows that lunch supper is the number one in the terms of Richmond in terms of Richmond, in that it has 1,662 reviews. It happens to have a high average as well. So props to lunch supper. It's one of my favorites. But anyhow, this is an example that kind of brings it all together. The concepts that we described, and again, happy to share this visual so that you can use it in building out your individual designs. So the map itself, just to touch on this really quick, but essentially the bar chart is floated over the map. And then you can interconnect them using dashboard actions. So when you click on one, it highlights the line all the way down through. So moving to takeaways though, just wanted to touch on the overall purpose of this presentation. I wanted to speak about data densification and how that can connect to design work. Wanted to introduce a non-out-of-the-box type of visual using curves, employing curves in the visual so that you can relate two different types of visuals, the map and the bar chart. And I think while I use the restaurant data set and use case, I think that the concept can be applied across a lot of different types of things. As I briefly mentioned before, on the right over there is a Sankey diagram. This is a probably even more known usage of the sigmoid curve, and happens to be a good visualization for a lot of different use cases, but maybe a more commonly known example. But just wanted to highlight that it can be used for a lot of different use cases than what I just shared. So maybe if anything, it inspired some thought, and it was really fun for me to explore and a challenge for me to create. So just some references. Again, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants here. Some of these names are like the Tableau greats or Zen masters, if you will, folks that have been doing this for over 10 years and are internationally known for their work. So a lot of research went into creating this thing, and just wanted to give credit where credit was due to pull all of this together. And so this will be available. All the background research is available within the workbook. So yeah, with that being said, I'm happy to check out the chat or entertain any questions or thoughts that may have come up during the presentation.
As we're waiting for some questions, Spencer, I think the other takeaway is, how does this apply to your organization, right? So how do you take this thought pattern and maybe incorporate this within your organization in a use case or multiple use cases? So while this is restaurant focused, of course, this is not the only focus. This could be, as Spencer mentioned, but how do we then take this and apply this, whether in the public sector, private sector, et cetera? And how do you all take this back and potentially use some of these ideas to further your visualization journey within your organization? So great thoughts on this, Spencer, and great some food for thought as well. No pun intended, food for thought, but great food for thought as well.
Hey, Spencer.
Hey.
Hey, this is Mukund. Great job in presentation, and it was simple, but it looked simple, but it's it's complex, but you made it sound simple, kind of thing. But basically, I'm just interested in the concept of creating data where it is not, because typically you would want to present only the real data, what is there, rather than creating things which are not. So what would be the rationale for doing that or justifying that when we are presenting? And along with that, I believe there comes the responsibility of calling it out, like the data was densified or data was created for certain purpose, to be transparent and to be clear and not misleading the users. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I just saw your note in the chat too about Iron Viz. I was digging around in the past week or so and saw that one too, and that was I had seen actually a different visual that was really inspiring to me, where the developer was connecting bars to like a city skyline. So that was one of my original inspirations for this. But the Iron Viz, I think I know the one you're talking about, and it's really cool as well. So, and amazing, how quickly it was built. To your question about transparency around kind of manufactured data, I think it's spot on. Obviously I would not recommend, having synthetic data in a presentation where you're presenting, any type of counts or, presenting something that's really based around the numbers. Although I guess I think it's a really spot on thought. And in this particular use case, it's really, you're not using the, if I go back, we're just using the lines with kind of the made up data in order to just create a visual relationship more than, for example, if this line was variable based on, the count of reviews or something like that, again, that would be kind of a different story. But it's a great point to not take advantage of Tableau's ability for data densification when, you're relying on the transparency of the numbers. So Great distinction, something I didn't really mention during the presentation.
Yeah, and thanks for that response. I mean, I know what you're using is just to connect the two types of data marks.
Right.
You're not like actually putting the data in by those lines.
Mm-hmm.
It also like brought a thought to me about like data scaffolding, where like, I mean, you create certain rows because of the intrinsic nature of data or the nuances, the way the data is laid out or like, I mean, is available kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just making that as a note or a comment. I'm not asking any question. But that's what made me think about. And I'm just curious, like, did you have to play with like, I mean, which one you're connecting, which way kind of thing, or which curve or the slope you're using for each of those?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm happy to share that too, but great point. And of course, no offense taken with the question or anything, always open to discussion. So I appreciate your thoughts. And on in terms of like where the line is connecting, the end points were defined in the data set. So that would be what I'd consider the easy part. I just kind of looked them up in full transparency, but the start points are, a little bit more tricky, and that's what kind of outlines, how the curve changes. So the start Y is simply, the place on the Y axis of the map. We kind of have to use actual latitude and longitude, which Tableau, I guess, does from like -90 to 90 and 180 to -180.
Yep.
The Y was relatively easier. The X is kind of a calculation on this kind of spreads it out so that it'll fit with the bars. But that very honestly took a lot of trial and error, excuse me, as well as the curve. You can change a couple points of the sigmoid function in order to change how dense or how narrow, I guess, the curve is, as well as just the direction of it. So my advice would be, if you're looking through tutorials and want to figure out, if you're following one and why your lines are going north or south or west or east, then it may be, the equations used for your pills on the columns and rows, and also the sigmoid function itself. But yeah, it was fun. A lot of trial and error.
Yeah, I thought that would be the case, just looking at the things. Yeah, thanks for sharing, and I'm glad that we have got started because of Qlarion's effort with the TUG meetings for Central Virginia Tableau user groups. I'm glad to, and hope we continue.
Thank you so much. I think, Alex, in the interest of time, should we flip over to John or?
Yep. If we have more questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. But to Spencer's point, why don't we transition to John and Andrew?
Okay, sounds good. I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
Okay. Well, good morning. My name is John Homan. I am an analytics project manager for Qlarion, working on a project for the state of Virginia, or the Commonwealth of Virginia. The challenge that I was working toward is this is a new project with a new client, so we have no project management mechanism in place, and so it was a matter of just standing up what process do we want to use, how do we want to track this. There's going to be a number of people working on it and a number of tasks over a period of time. So I was looking for solutions to help with that, and really just what's in it for you, just an understanding of how we landed on the tools in case you're in the same situation, and how this could be a solution for you. The challenges I had were mostly around, since it's a new client, we didn't really have a solution in place that I was going to inherit and run with. And there are a lot of options, there are a lot of tools out there. And we really wanted to have roadmaps, reporting, and be able to share with the client and even be interactive with the client. and just a budget. Some project management tools are rather expensive. I know there's free ones, there's expensive ones. Some of the ones we looked at was just using Excel spreadsheet, or MS Project, which I know I've used before, which is I found to be very labor intensive and very single point of contact, managing through that. Smart Sheets, and then the other I was investigating was Jira and Tableau to try to merge the agile management practices with the reporting capabilities. So that was the option I came up with, was Jira and Tableau. So we could instead of having two separate things managing tasks and managing the project, was able to merge it together by using Jira. Then the next challenge was, how do you report out on that? Jira has some reporting capabilities available in it, but they were rather limited for what types of reporting wanted to have. So we did some research and found that there's a capability to connect Tableau to Jira. So that was kind of merging two things for me. I've worked with Tableau for a number of years, and so able to leverage Tableau to give some of the views that I wanted to have that are available in other tools, but they were more labor intensive, more manual intervention in that. So that was where I landed in this solution, is that it's just one tool for the planning and execution, and that people can manage their own tasks, and it will update the project plan. So as things are getting completed, people can mark them complete, we can set dates, and then it flows right into a project plan. And then it also enables our customer to engage as well. We can assign tasks to them. So like review tasks, things like that can be assigned to them, and then they can see real time what's going on with the project, either within Jira or within the Tableau project plan. And then Tableau has, I mean, as you all know, Tableau has a great deal of capabilities and the things it can do. So merging it with the data available in Jira, that I'm able to generate project plans. We'll be able to generate status reports, like what have we completed this week, this month. And then we can also leverage Tableau server to enable it to automatically update and refresh these and allow for sharing of that. We're still early on in the process, so we have the reporting built out, kind of a caveat. We're working towards some of the additional reporting capabilities. And the other thing that was beneficial, that Jira is a per user pricing. So it's not, you don't have to buy a $20,000 license to use it. It's fewer than 10 people, it's free. And then goes from there. And then the plugin to connect to it is also inexpensive. So that was the key, was finding that web data connector for Jira that then Tableau could utilize. And so really it's fairly straightforward. And this is the high level task, and then I have detailed screenshots stepping through all the particular ones that we can look at here in a second. But for the Jira aspect of it, it's creating an account for starters, set up your project, and I have links to instructions on how you do that. And then that's creating your agile process flow artifacts. I use epic, stories, and subtasks. So it was a hierarchical view from the highest to the most detail, and then install the web data connector. And then for Tableau, it's using Tableau Creator. You just create a new data source, use the select web data connector, and then plug in the web data connector from Jira. And so I have a little bit of overview of that. This is just standard Agile record usage and how Jira has the relationships capabilities. And then this is just stepping through, how do you install that web data connector into Jira. So you have to be an admin. You log into Jira and then you go into apps and find new apps. So that's on the far right-hand side of the screen, and that takes you to the Atlassian marketplace where there are a number of Jira plugins that are available to you. I just searched for Tableau, found there were a few different ones. I tried a few different ones. This is the one that I found that works. It's actually currently recently relabeled. It was AIO, all in one was the former brand of it. Now it's Bob Swift. Apparently they must have purchased or merged, something like that. Click on it, install it, and then when you open it up within Jira, it just gives you right there is your web data connector URL that you would use in Tableau. If you use Tableau server, one caveat, there is a URL that needs to be whitelisted on Tableau servers to allow that connection to happen. And then you can also have, it can be just the URL, or you can have an access code, which is optional. So depending how secure your installation is, that access code would probably a good idea for just to enable some additional security. And that's it for the Jira side. And then you go into Tableau, create a new data source, select type of web data connector, and then you paste the box that comes up, looks like this. You paste the URL right from what you've got in Jira, hit enter, and then it'll take you into the setup aspect of that, where you can name your data source. You can do some filterings with JQL, which is Jira's query language. I do have a link to that. Some of the, how does that tie to Jira fields, so you can see what the filters are. I just set up an issue type filtered, and what I did was I did this. I set up 3 different connections, one for the epics, one for the stories, one for the subtasks themselves, so that then they could be related. So this first one was for, this was just all records besides the subtasks. And so that was just a note I had that would do 3 of those. Then once you hit enter there, it brings up a list of all the fields available, and it just has them separated out in some various categories. You can search if you're looking for a particular item, and then just found the appropriate fields that I thought I needed, and it was some trial and error figuring out what fields they were. Would put some data into Jira and then pull it in just to see, am I getting the fields that I want, things like that. One of the big keys, so to speak, pardon the pun, is the key is what ties things together. It's the unique identifier for each of the records in Jira. And so I just have a note here how those are connected. So there's the key on each record. On a story, there's an epic link, which will have the key to its parent epic. And on the subtask, there's a parent issue key, which will have the relationship to the key for its parent story. Subtasks have to be under stories. Epics and stories do not have to be related. So there's certainly flexibility in how you would want to do that. But how I set it up was epic, stories, and subtasks. And then once you get in, once you've made your connections, then you just pull the tables in, make the relationships, and then go. And then this was just a page of last I researched it about just the general cost of how much Jira costs to use. So, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Andrew, who's on my team, who will walk through the Tableau side of things, the visualization aspect of it. So I will stop sharing and turn it over to you, Andrew.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Pachano. I'm a lead associate at Qlarion, and I work very closely with John for one of our clients. And just to confirm, you're all seeing the Tableau dashboard. Just a little thumbs up. Perfect. Awesome. Thanks. And so when John created the web data connector, I saw a lot of value in seeing that and how it interacts with Tableau, because there are some shortcomings in Jira. that are missing some of the key dates. But with being able to look at Tableau, you're able to see some functionality of how your actual subtask or story plays with the overall client deliverable. So there's a lot of value add to connecting Tableau with Jira. So I'm going to go over 3 key dashboards that we typically have been using. Right now, we're just using a very standard project dashboard, which has an overall your epics and then your associated stories and subtasks. And of course, for this one, for the purpose of this presentation, it's very simplified, but for all of our projects, and this goes across the company for multiple clients, it's really key to see how your story relates to an epic and your timeline. So just some overall functionality of the dashboard is you can select the specific project. So if you have multiple clients, you can click it here, and there's functionality built in to add maybe a client logo or any kind of key identifier for that project. Similar to the Jira board, you might have a roadmap and you want to see what's assigned to you specifically. And so that's very key to have here. And something else that we really liked is that the project target endline date, depending on what you select, you can update and it'll readjust the timelines for you. So in this view here, you can see how your actual epic is compared to your overall deliverable throughout the course of time. And then eventually, once you get to the story details and then subtasks, it will combine up to give you a full kind of calendar view of what you're working on. Now this, what we're calling the 3-week rolling view or 2-week prior rolling view, has been a really helpful piece for us to work on. Right now, a lot of the functionality over here is you can adjust what you've been working on in the prior 1 to 4 weeks, as well as in the coming 1 to, I believe, 8 weeks that we use. And so it's in adjusting what your subtasks are in Jira and some of the key deliverables that are much more easy to visualize. So again, you have the functionality of changing the assignee, changing the date period, and then with that, you can see what's in progress, on hold, what you still have to do, and as well as what's done. And some of the key components here is, with the shape legends, it's very easy to see that some of your subtasks that have been completed, either on time or maybe late, but also you can see what's upcoming in a future due date within in our case right now, I have it filtered on the rolling 3 weeks. You can see these subtasks are due within the next 3 weeks, but then this 4th one down here is outside of, I believe it's a 4 weeks from now. So you'll see that while it's not something due on your, in the pipeline, it's something to keep in mind. So as you keep updating your forward-looking view, depending on when you have your project planning meetings, it's a really helpful tool to view. And then kind of the last one we wanted to show is the breakout of key deliverables and milestones. And this is helpful, really helpful to see the clarity for what is deliverable to the client, what's key for the team. And so, all with the idea of you have today's date, which is the dynamic date you can use. And with the Jira connector, it will update based on what's in progress and what you still have left to do. And you're able to see what some of the key deliverables are, as well as some of the milestones that your team has accomplished going forward. So with those 3 key dashboards, I think I'll kind of turn it back over to John to kind of open up to any questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew. So this was just a way to be able to track the work, share it, and reduce the reliance on one person to keep it up to date. I think that was one of the keys is with Agile, everybody's responsible for their own stories or their own tasks, however you organize. So just leveraging that instead of having to track them in two different places. So, a good question from Mukund is, what flavor of Agile are we using? And we are a Scrumban, I think, as Alex put in there. So we're not formal, safe, all the ceremonies, things like that. Right now we're just trying to track out plan every week for the next three to 6 weeks, just to lay that out so we have that forward-looking view moving forwards. Are there any other questions?
Hey, this is Mukund here. Thanks, John and Andrew, for your presentation and sharing what you have been doing, putting these two tools together to get the PM job done easily, probably. Hopefully, that's the idea. I just lost my track of thought. Sorry. But essentially, yeah. So I was just curious, like, I mean, I know you're implementing this like agile principles kind of thing for the PM, so to speak, discipline, but are you using any sprints, or you're just basically tracking as like the total work content, like from Epic, like that hierarchy, Epic story and subtask, but you're not specifically using sprints and tracking sprints with 2 weeks, 3 weeks kind of cadence, even if you are using Scrumban?
Yeah, we're more in Scrumban. What we
Okay.
put in place is every Friday we spend time in our office hours / stand up to make sure we have stories groomed out for at least 3 weeks. So we're
Okay.
kind of a rolling 3-week sprint.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Mhm. Any other questions?
And again, I think John and Andrew, thank you all. I think that, a lot of the conversation is around the art of the possible, right? So the goal is to bring some ideas here that you all can take back. Some of these may be not aligned at all with where you are, but maybe where you want to be, or where you're heading as an organization. So John, Andrew, thanks again for that presentation as well. All right, we're getting close to the top of the hour. Let me open it up just generally for some Q&A. And then what we'll do is we'll actually have some polling questions to get this a bit more interactive and get some feedback from you all on what TUG can be doing, what you all are doing, and what we can be doing as we look into 2021 and beyond, into making this the greatest experience for you all, and a valuable experience for you all as well. So let me open up to just any other additional general Q&A for Spencer, John, or Andrew. If you think of more, feel free to drop it in the chat as well. We'll make sure we get to that. And again, for those that are new to TUG, in pre-COVID days, there'd be a lot more interaction in person at your small tables, and there'd be a lot more just informal interactions. So we're going to try and make this as interactive as possible here in the next few minutes and try to get some of y'all's feedback in place. But feel free to continue sharing. Let me get the first poll up. All right, so why don't we go ahead, can everyone see the polling on the screen? Thumbs up if you can. Great. For those that are dialed in, I apologize, but again, so just general questions on how many years have you used Tableau? What do you like the most about Tableau? What is one area you'd like to see added to TUG, so specifically to this group? There is conversation around doing a hackathon or some Tableau hackathon, virtual for now, of course. Would love to get y'all's input and feedback on that. What is the barrier for your organization in expanding Tableau? There are different things that are impacting Tableau around. Would love to hear more about what that is for individuals. What will Tableau be used for in 2021? Again, there's multiple use cases, right? So as we continue peeling back the onion in Tableau, one thing we like to do at Qlarion is understand where use cases are and where we can be the most valuable. And we find very often that there's a lot of internal focus in Tableau. There's some external citizen and stakeholder focus, but most is internal, and really looking for the value points there as well. Where is your organization in the Tableau journey? So again, a lot of people on this call, some new, some that have been here involved for years. And this people use this TUG organization and group to kind of tip their toe in the waters of Tableau and figure out if it's the right place for them as well. So if you haven't started yet, that is completely fine as well. Not everyone needs to be on a certain place along the path. But also if you've been along that path for a while, it's also interesting to see how far Tableau has come and how far this community has come as well. So we'll give it about 30 more seconds for people to get their feedback in, and then we'll go through some of the results as well.
Hey, Alex.
Yes.
And this is Mukund. I'm trying to submit the poll, but it doesn't let me submit because I cannot answer some of the questions related to the organization. So is it like all mandatory responses?
That's an interesting question. Someone from Tableau helped set this up. If you can't answer a question, just put an answer in there, and then I think it will then submit if you've answered the questions. It is not our intent to have them all mandatory. Please know that. This is more of a fun thing for information purposes only. But go ahead and answer all the questions, and I'm going to guess your submit button will then highlight.
Yeah, probably that I may not be able to submit, but that's fine. Just wanted to check.
Oh, absolutely true. No, it makes sense.
Yeah, thanks.
No, my apologies. And I'll follow up when we do polling in the future. Most of the polls we do are through a different tool, which are not required, but I'm assuming that this Zoom poll has a requirement for all answers. All right, give it about 10 more seconds. Everybody had a chance to answer? All right, we will wrap up the polling here. Can you all see the answers yet? I don't believe you all can see the answers yet. Is that correct? Yep.
Nope, I can't see.
Yep. Oh, and Katie, great point on that. This is really just, your organization or your area. All right, so let me share the results here. For the first one, you'll see that we've got a pretty good distribution of people on this call that have used Tableau less than a year, 1 to 3 years, and the 4+ years is the winner from the response perspective. But it also goes to show that there's a lot of energy in the Tableau space, which is exciting in terms of where organizations are in adoption of Tableau and where individuals are in onboarding the Tableau journey as well. Visualizations on the second question seems to take the cake in terms of what you all like most about Tableau, with interactivity, ease of use also coming behind that. I will say I'm kind of somewhat surprised for those when pre-COVID, when Tableau has their conferences, the community aspect of that is beyond me. So if you've not had a chance to go to a Tableau conference, please do yourself a favor and try to get to one beyond or post-COVID or virtually for now, but post-COVID, I think you'll find the community impact of Tableau, just like we have here at the TUG, right? So the community coming together is significant in some of the Tableau value proposition. What is one area you'd like to see add to a TUG? So we have Wow, this is amazing. So tips and tricks, so which is the things we focus on a little bit today. Some for panel discussion and some for cross-participant sharing. I think we're just trying to look for different areas and different opportunities to keep energy up in this space, make these valuable for you all, and change the format a bit to make sure that it is interesting and diverse. Would you be interested in Tableau Hackathon? Yes is one there as well. Again, there's lots of hackathons that happen around the Commonwealth, as we all know. Qlarion's been very engaged in the CDO's hackathon and the governor's hackathon over the last many years, but I think the Tableau hackathon concept would be fantastic and would be also a showcase of what Tableau can do. That would also be some great knowledge sharing as well for organizations and for participants on this call as well, in sharing some of the best practices and some of the things that you all are able to do. What is a barrier for your organization? Again, budget, not surprisingly, overall organization, executive understanding, followed by at last the lack of data sources. Jesse, thanks so much as well. And then finally, what will Tableau be used for in 2021? Internal reporting looks like it continues to be the main use case, while there are some individuals and some organizations using it for citizen or stakeholder reporting. And then finally, where are we in terms of our journey? It looks like, interestingly, people are on their way, followed quickly by a maturing early on and haven't started yet. So again, it looks very positive in terms of where organizations are in their Tableau journey, recognizing every individual and organization is different. So some good data there as well. Let me pause there. Anything that was surprising to people or anything that people thought would be different in any of those answers? All right. Well, we are at 12:02. I know we were supposed to go to 12:30, but again, I'd rather not meet to meet. I want to meet to make sure this is valuable for you all. So we'll go around the horn one more time to see if there's any final questions. And before we get to that, if there are not, I just want to say on behalf of the Tableau user group here in Central Virginia, and all of us have been part of kind of putting this together. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. We know your time is valuable, and hopefully we've been able to provide some nuggets and some opportunities for you all to take some things back to your organization. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Spencer, myself, John, or Andrew. We'd love to talk more about ways that y'all are trying to use Tableau or the ways that we can continue cross-pollinating across the user group to help in any way possible. More information will be coming out on the future TUG meetings in 2021 as well. So this is not the first of only, but this is hopefully the first of many to come. And let me pause real quick. Any final questions from the audience?
Yeah, Alex, we've got some good notes. Note about us kind of split across experience level. So I definitely welcome presentations for more intro level or walk through step by step. Don't want to lose anyone with the presentations, or just want to make sure it's applicable across the audience. So I'd love that. And looks like we should usher in more tips and tricks along the way too, based on the
great point.
result.
I think it's Sharina, but great point on there too. Thank you, Spencer, for calling that out as well. Absolutely. I think, and that actually, the part of getting that polling was to Sharina's point, is to really drive that understanding, to understand where we should be focused in the future. So we are hopefully hitting every one on this call and making it valuable for everyone as well. All right. Well, if there are no further questions, again, thank you again. Please be on the lookout for more information about future TUG events. And on behalf of Spencer, Andrew, John, and myself, thank you again for all that your time. And please let us know if you have any questions or follow-ups. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you all at the next TUG here in the near future. Thanks again. You all have a great afternoon.